Discover the incredible techniques Native Americans used to stay dry for days in endless rain. Jack stood in the dim light of his living room, a cacophony of raindrops drumming against the roof above. Each drop felt like a constant reminder of the struggle he faced as a single father. He glanced at Lily, her laughter echoing in the damp air like a beacon of hope. With her wild curls bouncing and eyes sparkling, she was the one bright spot in their weather-beaten world. But as the storm raged outside, he could feel despair creeping into their fragile existence. The old roof sagged, patches now mere band-aids on a gaping wound. Would this be the night the rains finally claimed their home? He shoved the fear aside, focusing on Lily's laughter, a sound that chased away the darkness. She danced through puddles, every splash a declaration of life in spite of the gray horizon. Jack's heart swelled with love, but alongside it came the nagging worry that he was failing her. What kind of father couldn't he keep a decent roof over his child's head? In a moment of desperation, Jack picked up a worn book he had found at the local library, stories of Native Americans who had endured the relentless rains long before these crumbling walls sheltered him. They had survived with ingenuity, using nature's gifts to their advantage. Inspired, Jack decided it was time to learn from them. He felt a flicker of hope amidst the swirl of despair, the kind that reminded him of why he fought every day. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack learned to weave cedar bark into waterproof mats. He used his hands, calloused from years of carpentry, grounding himself in the craft that had once brought him so much joy. With each braid, he felt layers of vulnerability peel back. He was reclaiming a part of himself, one often overshadowed by disappointment and the weight of his choices. As he crafted the mats, the colors of the cedar reminded him of Lily's gleeful laughter, all warmth and sunshine, cutting through the gray. The storm outside roared louder, and so did the whispers of a new threat. A wealthy developer had arrived in town, promising to transform their beloved community into something shiny and new. Jack felt the walls closing in, the community he loved threatened by dreams built on gold rather than roots. With each passing day, his estranged brother's voice echoed in his mind, urging him to leave behind the mud and sadness, to seek out brighter opportunities. But Jack clung to the memories of their childhood, the stories of collective strength and resilience. Rallying his neighbors under the rainy sky, he felt the fire spark within him. He didn't just want to save their homes, he wanted to preserve the very soul of their community. As voices swelled in solidarity, he saw light not just in their struggle, but in the bonds they shared as friends and family. In this rain-soaked town, Jack stood at the forefront of a battle that was so much bigger than him or his fears. Would he have the courage to lead them, not only for himself but for Lily and the legacy they could build together? The storm howled, but deeper still, Jack felt a storm brewing within himself, one that clamored for resolution, for connection, and ultimately, for home. Jack stood there, heart racing, as thunder rolled like a distant drum. He turned to Lily, who was now busy laying down her own small cedar mat, mimicking his every move. Her focus was intoxicating, eyes wide with determination as she carefully wove the strips together. In her innocent way, she was channeling the spirit of generations past, those who had made do with what nature gave them. "Daddy, look," she squealed. "I'm a mat maker too." Jack couldn't help but smile, even as worry tugged at him like a frayed rope. Each of her creations, no matter how small, chipped away at his own feelings of inadequacy. Seeing her joyful in the face of adversity ignited something deep inside him. He wasn't just fighting to keep a roof over their heads anymore, he was fighting for the very essence that made a home a home. As the storm lashed against the faded windows, Jack took a deep breath. He silently vowed to himself that they wouldn't just survive this. They would thrive. It wasn't enough to patch the roof with temporary fixes, they needed a foundation built on community and unity. Days turned into nights, and each night Jack taught Lily more from the book he had found. Stories about the Native Americans' resilience in the face of relentless rain seeped into Jack's soul. They spoke of strength rooted in understanding their land. Those teachings began to swirl in Jack's mind with new energy, a recipe for salvation for both him and Lily. One evening, he pieced together a plan. He would organize a community meeting, inviting not only his neighbors but anyone who could hear the fighting spirit cry out against the pouring rain. He envisioned the old town hall, dilapidated as it was, bustling with familiar faces. Together, they could draw on the strength of their collective history, their shared memories, and create a strategy to challenge the developers. The day arrived, and the rain remained relentless. But with it came a strange sense of clarity. Voices echoed in the hall, a symphony of hope mixing with the thundering backdrop. Each story shared, every word of encouragement, built bridges across fear and doubt. Jack felt the warmth from the crowd, the way strength swelled around him, lifting him higher. When he finally stood up to speak, his voice trembled. "We have a choice. We're not just individuals in this fight. Together, we are a community." His heart pounded as he stole a glance at Lily, who was beaming proudly from the front row. They spoke about returning to the essence of who they were, to create a stronghold that would not only protect their homes but also preserve the culture and memories so intertwined with their lives. As the energy in the room crescendoed, Jack felt invincible. But as the meeting wound down, an unexpected figure emerged from the shadows, an old friend turned stranger, someone who thrived in the development world. They stepped forward, eyes filled with ambition, and challenged Jack's vision. "You really think you can stop progress?" Their smile was confident, almost mocking. Jack's heart sank for a moment. He could feel the wind picking up outside, rattling the windows, much like his spirit. The battle was just beginning, and doubt threatened to steal his resolve. But he glanced back at Lily, full of fire and conviction, and knew that he couldn't back down now. As the night closed in, he mustered his courage. "This isn't just about stopping progress. It's about building something that lasts. I refuse to let our home become a memory." With that, Jack faced the gathering storm, not just the rain outside, but the daunting challenge ahead. Would he find the strength to rally his community, and would they have the courage to fight back against forces far greater than themselves? The rain continued to pour, but so did the determination within Jack. The stakes had never been higher, and the path forward was fogged with uncertainty. Yet amidst the chaos, he remained tethered to one undeniable truth: home was worth fighting for. What would the next move be? Would they stand strong against the tide, or would the darkness win? Jack lay awake that night, his thoughts racing like the storm outside. He could hear the rain drumming fiercely against the roof, a relentless symphony of nature's fury. But amidst the cacophony, another sound rose above, a quieter, more calming rhythm. It was the soft breathing of Lily, peacefully asleep, lost in dreams. She had always been his anchor, the little beacon of light guiding him through the turbulence of his life. He slipped out of bed, careful not to wake her. Shadows danced in the flickering candlelight. Jack noticed the half-finished mat Lily had made earlier, its vibrant colors a stark contrast to the gray world outside. It made him think about the community they had grown up in, the people who had taught him the very fabric of resilience. As he stepped into the cold hallway, a thought struck him. If Native Americans could thrive amidst storms and chaos, why couldn't they? What did they know about survival that he could learn? The stories from the book he had been reading echoed in his mind, tales of building shelters, finding food, and harnessing the strength of community. He needed to channel that, not just for himself but for everyone who relied on him. Morning brought the storm's chill, but it also brought a sense of urgency. The community meeting had sparked something deep, and Jack felt it in every fiber of his being. He grabbed a notebook and began jotting down ideas. How to build together. How to create safe spaces. He scribbled thoughts on techniques for rainwater paths, natural barriers against flooding, and gathering community resources. Each bullet on the page pulsed with hope, like a heartbeat that refused to quit. Jack looked up when he heard the soft creak of the floorboards behind him. It was Lily, rubbing her eyes sleepily. "Daddy, what are you doing?" she asked, concern etched on her little face. "I'm planning, sweetheart. We're going to make our home safer, and I need your help." Her face lit up. "Like mat making? Together?" "Exactly like that." Jack smiled. "We'll weave together all our ideas, just like those mats." They spent the morning poring over old books and drawings, sketching designs for their shared dream. The more they worked, the more ideas flowed. Jack felt the spark of creativity ignite between them, fueled by a mission larger than themselves. As they worked, neighbors began to trickle in, drawn by the vision and energy pouring from Jack's makeshift workshop. Seeing them melted the tension in his chest. They shared stories of past storms, of lessons learned through tough times, and exchanged vital information about what had worked for them in the past. Each story fortified their resolve, knitting them closer together, piece by piece. Jack stood back, taking in the scene before him. "This isn't just a fight, it's a tapestry of hope," he thought. The group was ignited now, fueled by purpose and a shared desire to not just preserve their livelihoods but to thrive together. But amidst the laughter and shared plans, Jack couldn't shake the memory of that old friend turned stranger, the shadows lurking just outside the edge of their light. As they mapped out the path ahead, the ominous weight of uncertainty still lingered in his mind. Would they be enough? As dusk began to settle, painting the sky in deep hues of purple and gold, the first cracks of hope began to appear. The storm had not diminished, it raged on. Yet here in this room, amidst friends and family, Jack felt a different kind of power brewing. They were not just waiting for the storm to pass, they were ready to fight it together. A sudden knock echoed through the room, slicing through the buzz of excitement. All eyes turned toward the door. Jack's heart dropped. Who could it be? Would it be a welcome ally or a harbinger of more danger? The room fell abruptly silent. Faces turned toward Jack, uncertainty etched in their expressions. The knock came again, more insistent this time, breaking the fragile calm. Jack's palms felt clammy against the notebook he clutched. What if it's someone from that group? Someone whispered, the fear palpable. Jack's heart raced. Surrounded by friends, he felt protective instincts surge. He had to know who was out there. He walked to the door, each step filled with dread and determination. As he reached for the handle, he took a deep breath, hoping it wasn't the news he feared. Swinging the door open, Jack was met with an unexpected sight. There stood Sarah, a neighbor from 2 houses down, drenched but determined. Her hair clung to her forehead, rivulets of rain cascading down the sides of her face. Jack's tension eased slightly, yet concern still flickered in his chest. "Jack! You need to see this," she panted, urgency lacing her words. "It's the river, it's rising fast. We don't have much time." A wave of panic surged through the room as Jack turned to his neighbors. Their work, their hopes, felt as fragile as the flickering candlelight now. "Gather your things. We need to check on everyone." Lily watched, confusion crossing her innocent face. "Daddy, what's happening?" "Just a little storm problem, love. But we're all going to fix it, together." He smiled briefly, trying to maintain calm. As the group transitioned from planning to action, Jack felt the energy shift. They moved like a well-oiled machine, gathering flashlights, blankets, and essential supplies. Jack remembered the stories of survival he'd read, the resilience of communities facing chaos. This was their moment to embody that spirit. "Let's check the river," Jack declared, leading the way outside. The wind howled around them, and the rain pelted down like an uninvited guest. Yet, they pressed on, each step fueled by a shared sense of urgency. When they reached the riverbank, Jack's breath caught in his throat. The once gentle stream thrashed wildly, swollen with rainwater, resembling a beast ready to overflow its confines. His fears were confirmed. They didn't have much time. What do we do? Someone asked, anxiety creeping into their voices. Jack felt the weight of their gazes, the collective hope resting on his shoulders. He quickly thought back to what he had read. We need to divert the water. We can create barriers with sandbags and debris. We'll protect the houses closest to the bank first, he asserted, his voice firm. Lily, he turned to her, can you help gather people in the nearby houses? Tell them we need to act fast. She nodded, determination shining in her wide eyes despite the storm. As the people split into teams, a sense of camaraderie blossomed around Jack. He felt part of something greater, a community rising together against the storm. But as he began directing efforts, the shadows crept back into his mind. Those strange feelings from earlier still lingered, a palpable tension that clouded the air. Jack spotted movement at the tree line. His stomach knotted as he squinted through the rain. Wait here, he instructed the group, stepping towards the woods. Nervous murmurs rippled behind him. Jack steeled himself, two conflicting emotions swirling within: a desperate need to protect, and an unyielding desire to understand what lurked in the dark. He approached the edge of the forest, the sound of the storm amplifying. He could feel the presence just out of reach. The silhouette became clearer, and Jack's heart hammered. Could it truly be a friend, or would this encounter bring even more trouble? The answer loomed just beyond the shadows, waiting to reveal itself. Jack stepped cautiously into the stormy darkness, the cold air biting against his skin. The rain fell heavier, drumming relentlessly on the ground around him. He strained his eyes, trying to discern the figure that shifted just beyond the edge of the trees. The world felt smaller, the roar of the storm serving as a curtain that closed in around him. Hello. He called out, his voice breaking through the chaos. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. He took a careful step forward, heart pounding in his chest, fear clasping tight around his throat. The silhouette shifted again. Jack squinted, trying to make sense of it. Was it friend or foe? He took another step, and as he did, the figure moved closer, emerging halfway from the shadows. It was a boy a few years younger than Jack, drenched, mud smeared across his face. Jack! The boy gasped, his voice barely audible above the howling wind. I came to warn you. They're looking for you. Who? Jack breathlessly asked, confusion tearing through him. The group, the boy replied urgently, glancing nervously toward the tree line. They spotted you at the community center. They know you've been rallying everyone. They want to let this happen. Jack's pulse quickened. The growing tension, the unpredictability of the flooding. They were not alone in facing this storm. Is it just you? He pressed, eyes darting to the shadows again. Others are hiding, but the boy hesitated, fear crawling over his features. They don't care about the flood. They want to silence you. They think you're a threat. Jack's mind raced. He had aimed to unite the community, but clearly, that wasn't the only battle he was facing. He felt a weight on his shoulders, heavier than the go-bag he had thrown together earlier. This wasn't just about protecting homes, it was about standing against a force that threatened their unity. Listen, Jack said, urging determination into his voice. We need to get back to the others. They need to know about this. No. The boy shot back, panic flaring. If they see you, it's over. I've seen them lurking. They're prepared. Jack felt torn. The pulsing urgency to protect his neighbors battled with the instinct to shield this boy from what could happen if they were caught. Yet there was no way he could abandon his friends. Their safety together transcended any individual threat. Then we can't go back right now, he concluded, heart racing. We need to regroup somewhere safer. We'll keep moving, it's our only chance. The boy nodded hesitantly, his eyes wide with uncertainty. Where will we go? Up the hill. Jack gestured toward higher ground, where the trees thinned out. It wouldn't keep them out of sight entirely, but it was better than being exposed to those searching for them. We'll warn those who might not be caught in the rush of it all. As they stepped away from the woods, the rain lashed harder, but the boy had become more animated, fear transforming into a steely resolve. We can't let them win. They won't take our homes, our lives. Not now. Jack felt a rush of hope. If one frightened boy could summon such strength, then their little community might be capable of so much more. You're right, he agreed, energy ebbing back into his words. Together we can find a way through this. As they climbed higher, whispers of the storm echoed in Jack's mind, but now they melded with the promise of unity. It didn't matter how dark the road ahead appeared. In that moment, he felt the stirrings of a force that could meet any challenge. But still, a question loomed in the back of his mind. What would they encounter if they reached the others? And would the storm of human conflict prove more dangerous than the flooding waters? With the rain still pouring, Jack wondered what awaited them at the top of that hill. As Jack and the boy climbed, the world around them seemed to blend with the storm's fury. Trees bent low, their branches whipping in the wind, almost as if they were trying to reach out and pull the two boys back into the canopy's shadows. The ground squelched beneath their feet, sucking at their shoes with each desperate step. Jack focused on the path ahead, trying to block out the dark thoughts creeping into his mind. Are you sure we'll find them? The boy asked, his voice trembling against the backdrop of thunder. Jack turned, searching the boy's face for signs of hope. We have to believe we will, he replied, even as doubt clawed at his insides. We can't let fear drive us. In the distance, flashes of light illuminated the sky, revealing the steep incline ahead. It looked steeper now, like a challenging mountain that they needed to conquer, but they pushed on. Jack's thoughts drifted back to the meeting at the community center. Passionate voices, urgency, and determination had filled the room, hope igniting in their hearts. Do you think everyone will listen to us? The boy timidly asked, glancing regretfully over his shoulder. What if they blame you for this? What if they think you put us in danger? Jack felt a gut punch of emotion. He understood the boy's fears. Listen, they might be scared. They'll panic. But we're fighting for our homes, our families. We can't let them speak for us. They reached a small clearing, and Jack considered their next move. He could see the hillside ahead narrowing, leading into what looked like a rocky outcrop. If we can make it to that outcrop, we can spot anyone approaching, he suggested, gesturing toward it. We might be able to wait for the others there. Halfway to their refuge, a low growl reverberated through the trees behind them, escalating his heartbeat. Jack's eyes widened as he turned around, scanning the dark line where the forest thicket thickened. Did you hear that? He whispered. The boy nodded, a shadow of panic crossing his face. What was it? Not sure, but we don't have time to find out, Jack urged, seizing the boy's arm gently yet firmly. Keep moving. We can't stop now. They sprinted towards the outcrop, and Jack's lungs burned with each breath. Adrenaline surged through him. Every sound amplified the crackles of the branches, the squelching of the mud, the relentless rain drumming on their skin. When they reached the rocky shelter, they collapsed against the cool stone, panting hard. Jack peered over the edge of the outcrop, trying to calm the racing thoughts in his mind. From this vantage, he could see the sprawling grounds of their neighborhood. Faint lights flickered in the darkness, but they weren't alone in the shadows. They're searching, the boy murmured, his breath quickening as he pointed towards figures moving between the houses, their dark silhouettes just brief flashes in the rain-soaked night. Jack felt a chill race up his spine. They were close now, too close. We need to get to the others. We can warn them before he could finish. The bushes rustled violently, and Jack's heart stopped. From the underbrush, two silhouettes emerged, figures blurred by the pouring rain. As the shadows moved closer, Jack felt the pull of uncertainty again. Who were they? Jack. Run! The boys screamed, but before they could react, the figures stepped into the light. At that moment, the storm intensified as their world exploded in chaos. Jack braced himself for whatever was to come, a question leaping to his lips: were these allies or enemies? He grasped the boy's hand as his heart raced, ready to face whatever storm loomed ahead. The rain fell harder, drenching everything in a cold embrace as the figures emerged from the shadows. Jack squinted, trying to make out their features. Were they friends lost in the storm, or were they cloaked figures with intentions darker than the clouds above? The boy beside him trembled, lips pressed tight in fear. Jack felt the tightening grip of panic in his chest, yet he forced himself to breathe. The silhouettes advanced, each step echoing like a thunderous heartbeat through the night. "Who are you?" Jack called out, his voice barely rising above the storm. The figures paused, and one took a step forward, a flicker of recognition striking Jack. "Jack! It's us!" A familiar voice broke through the tension as the rain cascaded down. It was Sam, a neighbor's son, his face wet and smeared with leaves but lit with relief. The other figure beside him was Alex, his older brother, confident even against the fury of nature. Relief washed over Jack like a warm wave, but it was quickly eclipsed by unanswered questions. "What are you doing here?" "We thought we couldn't stay in the neighborhood, it got too dangerous." Sam shouted over the howling winds. "We've been looking for you. We heard you left and well, the others are back by the gym." Jack exchanged a glance with the boy, whose eyes widened. "We need to get back to them. We can warn them. Then let us move." Alex motioned dramatically toward the direction they'd come from, urgency evident in his stance. The boys scrambled back into motion, slipping over mud and racing through the downpour. The group moved quickly, shadows merging and splitting in the storm's chaotic dance. Jack's heart raced not only with fear but with dawning hope. Together, they had a chance. The world around them may have flushed in turmoil, but within their team, a spark of unity flickered. His heart dared to echo the familiar tones of home. The rain blurred their vision, yet Jack could feel the boy's determination next to him. With each stride, the weight of doubt lightened. They navigated through the downpour, urgency propelling them forward. As they neared the community gym, the air thickened with resolve. They could be the voice that united everyone. No more confusion. No more paralysis by fear. They were in this together. But as they rounded the corner, they were met with another surprise. There, backlit by sporadic flashes of lightning, they spotted a familiar figure standing outside the gym. It was Mr. Sanders, the community leader. His face was set with grim determination, shouting something Jack couldn't quite hear over the drumming rain. "What is happening?" Jack urged, straining to hear. Sam opened his mouth to speak, but just then, the hairs on Jack's arms stood on end. A sudden rustling from the nearby trees caught his attention. Dark forms converging from the shadows, their figures emerging like phantoms through the deluge. Not allies. Not friends. "Jack, we need to." But before Sam could finish, a flash of light lit up the night, revealing the looming presence of conflict ahead. "Stay close!" Jack shouted as he backed up against the others, the weight of their fight crashing down upon them like the rain. They were not only fighting against the storm now, they were fighting for their lives. Who were these figures? And what would they do to protect their own? Would they have the strength to stand united against what was coming? With resolve, Jack met the storm head-on, knowing that in this moment, everything could change. The wind howled, whipping through the trees like a chorus of angry voices. Jack felt every rattle of the storm in his bones, but he didn't have time for fear. The looming figures stepped closer, their shapes sharpening against the jagged flashes of lightning. Was this just nature unleashed, or had they stumbled into something much darker? "Who are they?" Sam gasped, eyes flickering toward Jack with uncertainty. "I don't know," Jack replied, his throat tight. "But we can't stick around to find out." He glanced back at Mr. Sanders, whose strong stance suggested he was ready to face whatever was approaching. That gave Jack a flicker of hope, but it was quickly smothered by a growing dread. The figures emerged from the rain, a gang of hooded locals, each advancing like shadows, their movements synchronized and eerie. Jack's heart raced as he caught the grim expressions etched onto their faces. There was a seriousness there, an urgency that felt like the calm before the storm. "Get behind me!" Mr. Sanders yelled, stepping protectively in front of the boys. Jack could hear the tremor in his voice, a subtle crack that hinted at the fear lurking beneath his resolve. The sight reassured Jack but reminded him they weren't just in a battle against the rain, they were staring down the threat head-on. Suddenly, loud shouts echoed through the air, mingling with the cracking thunder. The figures didn't seem to be in storm mode, they seemed intent on something else. A dark figure pushed to the front of the group, taller and broader than the others, his voice booming through the chaos. "You're in our territory. Turn back." Jack felt the boy beside him tremble more fervently, his small frame almost disappearing behind Jack's gathered strength. "What do they want?" he whispered, the fear reflecting in his wide eyes. "They're scared just like us," Jack said, trying to convince himself as much as the boy. "They are just teenagers, like them, caught in a night of confusion. Maybe they're not our enemy." But before he could say another word, Sam interjected, "We can't let them scare us. We have to warn everyone." Jack nodded. "We need to show them we won." Back down. Gathering the last of his courage, Jack shouted, "We don't want trouble. We just want to get everyone back to safety." The tall figure stepped forward, humanity flickering in his stance as the rain danced around them. "You think you can just stroll back home? You have no idea what's out there. We're trying to keep the worst of it from spreading." Jack's chest tightened. What did they mean by the worst? Were there threats lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? The surrounding atmosphere shifted. The wind picked up, carrying whispers Jack could barely interpret. "Then let us help," Alex said, stepping up beside Jack, his voice steady and clear. "We can fight together. We all want the same thing." The tension hung heavy, like a storm cloud ready to burst. Jack could feel the flicker of doubt and courage rallying in the air, their lives teetering on the balance of a single decision. Would the darkness overpower them, or could they unite against the terrors haunting their neighborhood? "What's coming?" Jack pressed, desperation flaring in his chest. The tall figure's expression softened. Worse than the storm itself. Before he could elaborate, another crack of lightning illuminated a shape launching through the trees, barely a shadow against the brilliant light. A primal fear gripped Jack, freezing him in place. "Look out!" he yelled. Their world was about to be plunged into chaos. Would they stand together as a community, or would fear split them apart when they needed each other the most? The dark shape surged toward them with a speed that was jarring, cutting through the rain-laden air like a predator closing in on its prey. Jack's heart thundered in his chest as he pushed Sam backward, out of the path of whatever was hurtling toward them. "Everyone, stay behind Mr. Sanders!" he yelled, his voice barely piercing through the furious wind. Mr. Sanders held his ground, eyes narrowed, fists clenched. The hooded figures behind him shifted defensively, their earlier aggression giving way to a shared uncertainty. Jack could see the tightness in their features, a reflection of his own panic. The air was thick with tension, every heartbeat heightening the fear. The shape finally broke free from the shadows, revealing itself as a wild-eyed figure covered in mud and rain-soaked clothing. It staggered forward, eyes wide with terror, desperate and gasping. You have to listen." "Who are you?" the tall figure roared, stepping forward with menace. "Not the enemy. There's something worse. They are coming." The newcomer's voice was raw, edged with desperation, and Jack sensed a chilling familiarity in his eyes. "What do you mean?" Jack asked, driven by a mix of fear and determination. This was a chance, a lifeline. "What's coming?" Before the boy could answer, a haunting howl sliced through the storm, causing a collective gasp from both groups. It echoed across the trees, punctuating the air with a promise of chaos. Jack shivered at the sound, a primal echo that filled him with dread. Wolves, the newcomer managed between breaths. But not just any wolves. They're not pets. They're something else. Feral demons. They're hungry and angry, and they're coming for flesh. Malformed shadows, the tall figure muttered, breaking the unspoken solidarity for a moment. That's what we call them. They've been lurking, waiting. Everything started to make sense in a rush. The urgency on the hooded boys' faces was born from a shared terror that had gripped their small community. In that moment, Jack felt a flickering connection. They were all scared, all desperate to keep their families safe. Then let us work together, Jack insisted, stepping closer to the stranger who had warned them. If we combine our forces, we might have a chance. The tall figure seemed to hesitate, weighing the risk of alliance against the instinct to retreat. But all around, the wind howled as if echoing their unspoken fears. What do you propose? Find shelter. We can't fight them out in the open. We need to gather everyone, fortify a safe place. We can't let them split us apart, not now, Jack urged, the weight of fear pressing down but fueled by a flicker of hope. The tension hung heavy, the violence of the storm not far off. Jack's heart raced as the rain lashed at him, blurring the faces around him. He could feel their eyes searching his, wavering between logic and fear, but he spoke with conviction. We're stronger together. With a nod, the tall figure lowered his hood, revealing a face that still bore the marks of youth, but was hardened by dread. All right then. We gather everyone here. But we have to move fast. The group rallied around Jack's voice, the roles shifting from scared kids to a potential united front. As they set off to gather others, the howling grew louder, taunting them, gnashing teeth hidden in the darkness. Jack felt the electric tension in the air. Would they truly manage to fend off a threat greater than any storm? With every step they took through the rain, the shadows seemed to close in tighter, and the howl echoed relentlessly in the distance. Could they survive the night and unite against the demons? Or would the storm yield to something even darker? The rain beat down on Jack and the assembled group, a steady drumroll of tension in the air. They moved swiftly, urgency guiding their steps as they dashed toward the gym, transformed from a safe haven into a fortress of sorts. Figures scurried around them, their faces drawn and marked with worry. Within Jack surged a sense of purpose, and he couldn't ignore the flicker of hope. As they entered the gym, he felt the warmth of familiarity wash over him, mingling with the sharp odor of wet clothes and adrenaline. Families huddled together, whispers rippling through the crowd. In their faces, Jack saw the reflection of his own fear, but he also saw something else, determination. Listen up. Jack called, climbing onto a table to address the crowd. The storm outside roared, but inside, the chatter quieted. We have a real threat coming for us. Feral wolves know, worse than that. We need to come together as a community. We can't be divided, it's time to protect what we love. The energy in the room shifted, sparks igniting hope within them. He could see a few skeptical faces, but the majority nodded, a somber understanding settling in. It seemed they all yearned to fight back against fear, not just the physical storm outside but the anxieties that murmured in their hearts. Gather supplies. Jack continued, gesturing toward the gym's storeroom. Bags, ropes, anything we can use to barricade. It wasn't just about survival, it was about presence, about standing tall even when the world felt too heavy. Sam, the boy who had run to him in the woods, stepped forward, determination glittering in his eyes. Let us all partner up. Each of us can manage a small area. We'll block exits and make a plan. Smart thinking. Jack nodded, feeling the resolve around him solidify into a plan of action. From chaos came unity. It was the very spirit of community he had once felt slipping through his fingers. People began moving, forming teams, and Jack helped strategically position them. As they worked together to gather materials and fortify their temporary bastion, Jack felt a surge of pride. It wasn't just about him leading, it was about everyone participating. In the back of his mind, doubts stirred. What if they were too late? What if the marauding wolves descended before they finished? He banished the shadows of disbelief and turned to Lily, who was tugging at his sleeve, eyes wide, yet determined. "Daddy, can I help?" she asked with a seriousness that belied her age. "I can hold the flashlight for you." Jack knelt, looking into her earnest face. "You can do so much more, love. Help everyone move the supplies over. A strong helper like you is our greatest asset." As Lily scampered off, he felt warmth suffuse his heart. She embodied so much hope, the embodiment of tomorrow, their future rising from the ashes of despair. The storm outside rumbled, but inside the gym, Jack found layers of courage beneath fear. They were fabricating security, shielding themselves against something threatening on the horizon, both literal and metaphorical. Minutes felt like hours, but finally, they had barricaded the doors and windows, lined with the sturdy tables from the gym. They gathered in the center, Jack taking stock of faces familiar, resolute. "We're ready, but we can't let our guard down. Everyone stay close together," he instructed. The wind howled louder, the walls creaked, and that haunting howl echoed again, closer. Jack felt the tension spike, but he knew this was their moment. "If they break through, we fight back together," he urged, his voice steadying a crowd ready to face the storm. "We are stronger than our fears." Just as he finished, the wall quaked violently, reverberating through the gym, and splintering noises erupted in the distance. Jack's heart raced. They were really here. The shadows deepened, and eyes flicked nervously toward the doors. Then the gym's lights flickered. "Stay calm," Jack shouted, but the panic was palpable, the air thick with uncertainty. A figure burst through the entrance, breathing heavily, mud smeared on its face. It was the boy from the woods, the one who had warned Jack. "They're coming," he shouted, panic lacing his voice. "We need to act now. Form a line," Jack commanded, adrenaline coursing through him. They readied themselves against the incoming tide, a fortress of hearts and minds. Amidst fears, they were standing together, bound by a shared goal. Outside, dark shapes moved swiftly, intent upon the gym. Jack's intuition kicked in, they wouldn't just stand by. "When they approach, we hold the line. We push back." The door rattled, fierce howls echoing in an almost deafening chorus. It wasn't just a storm anymore, it was a battle of survival. In that moment, Jack was no longer just a father or neighbor, he was a defender, committed to protecting his daughter and community. As the door buckled under the weight of the shifting pack, he caught sight of Lily at the front, holding her makeshift flashlight high. "We can do this," she called out, her voice bright against the dark chaos. Jack let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Their eyes locked, and a wave of strength surged between them. She was right, they wouldn't back down. Together they'd fight and stand firm against whatever storm dared to approach. As the door swung open, the beasts reared and howled. But Jack stood resolute, heart pounding, surrounded by his community, reminded that hope was their greatest weapon against the night. They would protect home, come what may. Each soul intertwined, determined to face this together, brave and unyielding in the face of darkness. In the heart of the storm, they answered it not with despair, but with the unwavering force of unity. Jack raised his fists alongside his neighbors, their shouts echoing the very essence of resilience. "We fight for each other." But it wasn't just a battle against the storm or wolves anymore, it was a reminder of what family, community, and love meant, a vivid tapestry woven from shared struggles and endless hope. As threats descended, Jack knew there was nothing that could extinguish the flame of unity within. And in that, they found their strength to rise against anything the storm dared to bring. Now is your chance to be part of something greater. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that can inspire your own journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for narratives that resonate with community and hope. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters deeply to us. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this extraordinary transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. It's time to uplift one another through words that bind us all in this beautiful tapestry of life.